Michael DiLeonardo, also known as Mikey Scars. The government says he's a high-ranking member of the Gambino crime family.
No Excuses with Michael DiLeonardo. I'm your host, RJ Roger. I never get tired of that intro. It always intrigues me.
No, that was a great one. That's a classic. That's a major statement to your talent. That really was.
You know, if you put any other song behind it, it wouldn't be the same. It's the music.
So, you did a great job. Really, really great job. It's classic. Everybody loves it.
Yeah.
Everybody ever said they didn't like the intro.
No, it's good.
You want to just bump this to YouTube also? You want to open it up? Would everybody get a message right now? A ping?
Yeah. If I put it on YouTube also?
Yeah.
Yeah, they would all know.
Let's do it.
You think so?
Yeah, why not?
All right. If Patreon gets mad, they get mad at you.
That's right, but they didn't show up today. They're a little late. They're all watching football today. So
there's 17 of them here, but we'll see.
Leo, glad to see you here, Leo. Get some questions ready.
You know, I wasn't. Hang on, this is going to take me a second here.
All right. Hey, Joseph. Yeah? All right, Joseph. Yeah, it's not popping up on us, Joe, on this side. It was a complete blank.
Okay, I'm about to switch it on to. So you're sure we're going on YouTube? You got 1 second to change your mind.
Let's open it up.
We are published on YouTube.
You know, we got the Carlino video out there, so maybe somebody, if they're not watching, it's a tough time. Next week, hopefully, we could go back to like 11 in the morning before the football. I get it. We try to wipe out all the 1 o'clock games and get into the 4 o'clock games. There's like only 3, maybe 4 out there playing. But still, it's football, NFL. I get it. So my schedule has been off. This is not RJ's. On RJ, not on him this time. It's on me. So,
well, you might want to say hi because the YouTube, because I just turned this on YouTube. So it'll take some while for them to pop in because it literally just pops on just now.
Very good.
What's up, YouTube? We're on Patreon Live, and Michael said, pop it on the YouTube at the same time. So now YouTube's going to be involved. Look, 50 people just jumped in from YouTube.
There you go, see?
So,
50 already? It's not even a minute.
Nope, it's 7 more. Now we're at 70. We went from 13 to 70 that fast.
Very good. All right, good. Glad to have everybody here. Football Sunday.
Yeah. So how you doing, brother?
Oh, very good. Very good. You know, I was thinking about it. I know it was spur of the moment. I put you on the spot about opening up to YouTube. But we have the Craig Carlino show out there, part 2. And we can explain maybe about part 1 where it really wasn't necessary to put part 1 up. It was just foundational of Craig's life. Not trying to diminish his role about his life, but people, with the feedback we were getting, people just wanted to hear more of the meat. And that was the scores issue. And how Craig ran scores and all the problems that occurred in his tenure there.
You know, I wasn't, again, see, I'm wearing like I'm dressed kind of down. I have a hoodie on. I usually would, put on, I try sometimes and dress a little bit more to the occasion when I notice 3,000 people watching me live. So
you're a regular guy. You're a regular guy. What was that movie, Rodney Dangerfield?
You bring up that movie. You bring up that movie a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a lot of life lessons in there too.
Life lessons. I was talking to somebody It's funny it's a good segue, 'cause I was going to bring this up on the show. Somebody was asking me a question about talking about our show. And they said, what do you learn from Michael other than about the mob? I said, that's really funny you said that. It made me think. I spotted out all this stuff. I was like, well, I learned from Michael that no matter how much the political landscape changes, you should always still call a woman sweetie. I hear you say that a lot. I learned from you, tip first, not at the end, because I want my service now. You told me that.
With a smile, and they know what to get. Look, for the most part, there's people really don't tip strong, and people think, the service industry. I could never be a waiter. Never. The dishes would be flying all over. It could never happen. I wouldn't be able to tolerate another human being how rude they are and abrupt. So I figure let them get a reward. Let them know that I'm safe zone, and they're gonna be rewarded for great service, and treat them with respect. And I've always lived by that mantra my whole life.
Yeah. I also said, never pick up your fork first. You have to eat last after all your guests have eaten, but also never take the last bite of an appetizer. I learned that from you. And I also said, and you told me this just yesterday. We were talking about somebody, and you said, I was in a little bit of a thing with someone, and this really resonated with me. But you said, RJ, if they have a conscience, they'll change. Anybody with a conscience, you have to look for that. No matter what you're going through with a person, ask yourself, do they have a conscience? Because the conscience will bring them back around.
That's right.
So there we go. 100%. I could keep going, but we'll stop there. Blah, blah, blah. How you doing, brother?
Good. Very good. I'm glad we opened it up. Seen a lot of people here now I've never seen before. So they could get a little taste of how we do things on here.
Looks like YouTube is starting, Michael. All jokes aside, if Sammy can't be forgiven, then none of us can.
There's always exceptions to the rule. Sammy
sure ain't changing.
Well, you know what it is. He don't have forgiveness and anything in his life. Who do you forgive? So, listen. At times in your life, you ask for forgiveness, and when you ask for forgiveness, who are you not to forgive? You would have the audacity of not to forgive. Again, there's always the exception to that rule, though.
This is
when you forgive somebody, right? You may not forget.
I never forgive. I don't forgive.
Forgiveness doesn't mean forget. Forgiveness means you get by for yourself more than the person. You can't live with the poison your whole life. So sometimes when you forgive somebody, you get it out of the way, and it's over for both of you.
This person said, I leave forgiveness to God. You know what? I'm kind of with you. Michael, I find that humans don't really change that often. Most people don't change. And I read in this book, The Laws of Human Nature. It's a whole chapter, a part about how no one does anything once. So even when you catch a person in something, that was just the time they got caught. But they've been doing it. They've been doing it for a long time. You just caught them that time. So I'm not like a strike 3 person. I'm not really even a strike 2 person. I'm kind of like, oh, okay. It's hard to change my mind once my mind is set on you.
Well, no, but you have a lot of forgiveness in you.
You think I do?
Oh, absolutely. You do, but you don't realize this. Yeah, I see you from the outside. You have a very soft side.
Yes, I have a very soft side. I'm conscious of that, but I don't know that I'm very. Once you cross me, you're kind of done. I'm kind of done with you. I think that's how I think of myself. Was Sammy as feared as everyone said he was?
Yes. Yes.
He was. I agree. People don't like that I say it, but Michael, I think he was one of the most powerful of his ilk, of his rank. And you could probably put him in a top 10 list, I think, in New York. Five families. Would you think he's probably at least top 10 underboss, feared underbosses?
No, not even as a wise guy. Forget about that.
There we go.
He was definitely a force.
No question about it.
Let me just go further as he matriculated down the road and rose in the ranks. Now, how could you not be feared, right? Think about this. You know, about loved and feared and all that other nice stuff. What would you rather be, right? And I had this conversation today with some strangers about fear. And I think that I opened their eyes a little bit to something. But anyway, when you see what he was doing in his life to the people that were most close to him, right? The cumulative effect of those bodies, you don't think a guy's going to be feared? That the closest friends he butchered and murdered? Of course you're going to be feared, you know? And a lot of times people kill what they're afraid of. And one of John's mistakes was not resolving Gravano. And listen to all the tapes after that. John knew he had a problem with him. But how could John? You don't think John feared him? Wasn't concerned? John didn't sit in a closet being afraid of him, but afraid of what may happen. He had to be thinking that when he throws his guts up about Sammy on those tapes. He exposed him. That's what makes Sammy flipped. Besides the time, they couldn't win the case. But Sammy knew he was outed. John outed him. He knew what was going on. So how could you not be feared when you have a body count of people that were close to you? Of course.
Yeah, but now let me push you on that, because there would be fear is a collection that also comes with, I think it works in concert with respect also. People like John, when he said, who's going to kill me? Me? You told me before John was a superstar in New York before he was the boss. He was, before he killed Paul, he was a super, people really respected him. But when you have the respect of a lot of other powerful guys that have the power to make decisions, like, do you think, now we're going back to then, right, what was Sammy's reputation with the five families, with the administrations and five families, with Philadelphia, with New Jersey, did he have the respect of the captains, the administrations, and other families, and on top of the fact that we knew that he was known as a working guy?
Let's go back to John, first of all. I told him, for those that don't know, I was told in like 1970, 1980 by Paulie Zach. I was just an associate at the time, when the first time I ever met John, and I was at an edict about dealing drugs, and a committee went out, sent out by Paul Castellano of the hierarchy. And John was one of those guys. He was captain at the time. And, Paulie Zach turns to me and says, that guy's our next boss. So just to put it in context of a guy who just came out of prison, just was made a captain, we just got a new boss in Paul Castellano in 76. You're talking 79 to 80, around there, when this committee went around. And John was on it. John was a superstar at that point. He was a powerful, influential, well-liked guy from an older guy like Paul Zachariah, Sicilian, and John was a Napolitan. When Paulie Zach's mentality, those mentalities were Sicilians stick together, So John's started to wane. His luster started to lose luster. His star is after the Castellano hit. That's when people started to wonder, you took down a boss without permission, and all these guys are getting killed, and you're the boss of the family. And nobody knows it's Gravano pushing him. But regardless of that, he's the boss. He's okay in those murders. So John lost a little luster and a lot of respect, my feelings, in the city. I'm talking about mob people. Other people loved him, like myself, and I was a Gravano guy. I was a DeCicco guy. I was a Brooklyn guy. my proximity to John, where he pulled me in, maybe get close to him. So, I've seen this through two different lenses, but I could say John's luster started to wane with all the mistakes that were going on. So, and Gravano, the same thing. Gravano was a superstar in the neighborhood growing up as a young guy when he was a soldier. And as he started to rise in the fit, he was more feared and said, you can't screw with these guys, like a Gaspipe. You think Gaspipe was liked? He was slaughtered in his whole family, but he was feared and he was respected because of his propensity to murder people in his own family. As crazy as that seems, but people really, they don't like you. They're not secure with you with that. Chin used them. Chin was a puppet master. He had him going out killing our guys, along with Gaspipe killing his own guys, of course. So guys like that, Gravano, yes, he had huge. He was shiny, nice shiny object, just like John. John was greater because he was had that upward mobility, and people seen that. But Sammy had the respect by everybody, again, including me and my friends and a lot of people in the neighborhood. It's just that it started to wane as they went up, and all these bodies and all these incidents started to happen.
When all that stuff was going around in the press, the Dumbfella stuff, and how the Dopey Don, how people, the press, the outside press was, doing this, cross analysis between senior and junior. What was the family saying when they saw that kind of? I'm just always curious. I'm not sure if I ever asked you that. What was like the inside discussions when that stuff was going around? Because I know you told me how Junior was perceived from the inside was nothing like what the media was saying about him.
Well, there's again the outside dynamic where people are looking at you as a muscle bound guy, right? And it was John's son trying to navigate and administrate to this family. Now, again, you had those old timers. We showed the picture of him with Jimmy Brown and Joe Butch out in Queens, which was, when you look at the picture, you say, bad look here. The FBI took the picture. There's a bad look. There's a guy in a jogging suit, thinking two old time. Both of them could have been boss easily. Jimmy Brown, yeah. Joe Butch, yeah. So he's taking these guys around. Bad look, bad mistake. So the perception was there was somebody with the name Gotti, his father's son, trying to act like the father. That's the perception. And it didn't go over well with a lot of people. They're not going to tell me. I was considered a Gotti from their mouths, not mine. So nobody's going to crack to me about anything bad, except in a little circle. Like Tommy Sneakers would give him shots every once in a while to make us. We were very close. But it stayed within us. Bobby Boreal used to call him a spoiled brat.
Boreal out there?
Yeah, they're playful. They're really. It was just Gumbada, but you would be able to say spoiled brat. And this one, John was in the street. I'm not talking afterwards, because Bobby don't last too long. So yeah, there's the inner circle perspective of people in leadership, and then there's the outside, how the world views you. A lot of people would not crack to me on the outside negative about Junior. Only people extremely close to me.
We talked about that before, but I'll always have a little bit of to me, it's a little Machiavellian, because we know now this is after the fact. So I guess you're speaking to the moment. In the moment, you didn't know that Jimmy Brown and Danny Marino were plotting against the family. But when you know they were plotting against the family, it would make that walk look a little different. Like, I'm the boss. You bring your ass to Queens.
I'm the boss. If they knew about that plot, there'd be an apartment in Staten Island. What are you talking about? No walk. There's no walk.
But okay, but what you said is, when John on tape was talking about I know the people downstairs that got rotten guts.
Yeah.
He was talking about Jimmy Brown, Danny Marino, those guys, like those old time guys that he knew. I know what you guys really think about me, which means Junior knew what they thought about his dad.
Yeah, I get it, but that doesn't make it right. You're not your dad. You have to show deference. You needed to change that look. You're not your father. Again, not. It seems like I'm knocking him. He just went about everything the wrong way, which is a knock, I guess. But if he would have just listened a little bit and went and go seeing these guys, the perception would have been a lot different. You don't make all these captains come and see you like your father demanded when he was in the street. They were tired of it. They did not want that anymore. That's how you got to learn and pick up. And that's how you garner a different type of respect. If you just would have put your jogging suit, your baseball hat on, and go find these skippers when you need to talk to them in their areas, there would have been nothing wrong with that.
When Sammy was
Go ahead.
When Sammy was picked up, was there relief or a feeling of devastation on the streets?
Oh, devastation. Was Sammy in the first case? No, I was devastated. We were all devastated. Don't forget, John was pinched there too. Frankie Lowe and Tommy Gambino. But Sammy, more personal to me, along with John Sr., very personal to me. These guys getting arrested. I knew once the government came in, the FBI was coming with a case this time, not going home. Especially there was the rumors about the tapes, the apartment being bugged.
Did John have Tommy DeSimone killed?
No clue.
You believe that theory?
I would be it'd be a disingenuous speculation on my part. I have no information to say it would lean me either way. So I really can't answer that. I'd like to have the answer for you, but I'm not going to make it up.
What's Michael's theory on why John Sr. never pulled Sammy up after complaining to Frankie about him? 2 weeks later, he promoted him to underboss. Why do you speculate that is?
Well, I think those tapes were to January. The original first tapes we heard were November of '89. The last tapes that we heard that the government provided a trial was January, I believe. I don't think Sammy gets to be underboss until like April or March or April, somewhere around there. Just going to guess. I think John knew he had an issue with Sammy, but he knew he had an issue with other families. When Frankie DeCicco was killed and the Bobby Manna tapes came out, and there was other rumblings there. So I think Sammy became a necessary evil for John to have around. It was a conundrum for him. He had a problem. So he promoted him. Now, look, getting a promotion doesn't mean safety. You get promoted, sometimes you die. They pull you in.
Why was Danny Marino not whacked?
Yeah, there wasn't enough really of information that it was that he was in on a plot. It was talked about. Absolutely, we talked about it. That's how I got his crew, because Junior knew and the father knew that I would not be compromised with those guys, and I was told to hold their pulse when Danny goes to prison. And I got the rest of the crew. But I got very close with his son, Georgie LaMendoza, and Danny's uncles. I was really close with Georgie and Danny's son. Like I said, Danny's son was with me a lot. Florida trips, Sylvester Stallone, uptown. We got really close. And then I came to a realization. Seems like I'm rambling. But what happens as time goes on, and talking to the two old timers, Jerry and Paulie, they were part of a plot, supposedly, right? We still don't know definitively today. It's just speculation, really. Nobody's ever admitted to it. That, Danny was going to be the boss. Jimmy Brown was going to be the boss. But it was all speculation. And as time went on, talking to these two old timers, was that John, Sammy, Frankie, DeCicco, and others plotted and killed the sitting commission boss, their own boss. And by the rules, if Jimmy Brown and Danny were involved, part and parcel with any other family to do that, they had the right to do that. No matter how the Gottis may feel about what I'm saying now, they were wrong. And if you're going to lead by Cosa Nostra rules, they did the right thing, because John was an illegitimate boss, even though later on they was supposedly was put on the commission, whether it be a year later or 2 years later, whatever these information we got exactly when it was officially done, which is pretty gray area. But I understood that, and I held no malice as a Cosa Nostra guy, taking my feelings out about killing Frank DeCicco, Borriello, Eddie Lino, etc. That's Cosa Nostra. In their eyes, commission's eyes, whoever's making decisions, John was not the boss, and he had to pay for his crimes against our family.
Okay. Seems pretty standard practice in the mob to me.
Yeah, well, no, I'm talking about from my perspective. I think it was from my perspective how, you're torn before your personal feelings on how to act, right? And then you talk, this is Cosa Nostra now. A bad thing was done. The bill was never paid, let's say, right? So, John knew he was in trouble. Frank DeCicco knew he had trouble. They knew they had trouble. They knew it was. That's why they lied and said, we don't know who killed him, even though everybody knows who killed him. So when you lie, you're afraid of something, right? For the most part, it's not to cover up and protect somebody. You lie, it's to protect yourself.
I quote in my book, a Michael Franzese quote, where he says, "When you become boss in this life, you don't get elected. You eliminate the boss above you."
Well, not all the time. That's not true.
But there's a lot of history to that. A lot of history.
Who shouldn't take over from?
Well, we know that, but we know Vito went against Costello by using Chin.
He's making it an absolute. It's not an absolute. I don't like absolutes.
Yeah.
It's a good quote, though. It's pretty nice, catchy. I'm glad it's in your book. But there's no absolute for that, unless it happens all the time. Then he's right.
Well, who killed Dog? Who turned on Dogwilla?
His
first boss.
His
underboss. Yeah. And then Manfredi Mineo comes in, right? That was his under. Who killed Mineo?
Probably, I'm going to guess my grandfather's crew. Those guys.
But ordered by who?
Oh, by then?
His underboss.
No, what do you mean?
Who killed when Dogwilla was taken out by his underboss? That underboss, that guy becomes the boss.
Yeah, many of them.
Yes. Then was it Scalici? Scalici?
And others, Trajan and Scalici. There was other leaders there. And there was going to be no peace until they banged out those guys who betrayed him.
And then those guys turned on him, and then Albert, and then Mangano comes in.
We're talking about peace for a long time now. Till it goes from the 1930 to the 1950s. In the 50s, when Albert kills Mangano, because Mangano's the boss. If there's that turn of events where Mineo gets, and Scalici was the active boss for a little while, gets taken down, and it goes there. But there was peace there, and then again, what happens? Albert kills,
and Albert.
Yeah, but you're trying to make a point. You just give him once, but what happens after that? In other families.
Then Carlo, the underboss, kills Albert.
Yeah.
So the only one who didn't get killed was Carlo. All the other bosses and the whole history of the Gambino family were killed by the underboss.
Now.
But John up until the last Don, up until John Gotti, every boss from the beginning of the Gambino family until John Gotti, except for Carlo Gambino, was killed by their underboss.
Yeah, what the problem was? You got a whole bunch of Sicilians, then a Calabrese guy stuck his nose in, and an Napolitan guy stuck screwed everything up. But if you look at other families, it wasn't that way. Papachi died, in the seat. Banana just went away. I know there was the problems there. But we could keep going on and on administrative. Yeah, what else we got?
Was Joe Piney the underboss before Sammy? What was his relationship with John? We see them in surveillance pictures together.
Yeah, very, very close with John, and with Joe Gallo, Neil, and a lot of other captains down there. That crew there, the Roberts crew, goes way back to the beginning of time in Manhattan. That's my grandfather was there. The Roberts pastry shop and Lanz's restaurant, that whole area was all solid Gambino guys. Before it wasn't even Gambino, it was Doglo guys. Even before Doglo. Morello guys from Harlem and then so a strong crew. Yeah, they came right up. Those are the guys that killed Albert. Joe Piney's brother. And Steve. Another guy. Those were the shooters. And the plotters were Joe Biondo and that whole crew. Joe Riccabone, Carl, so yes, he was very close with them.
Paulie Zach was one mean-looking Sicilian. I smoked my first cigar with him in my pops at 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah, you did that on 80th Street and New York Avenue, right? When they had the club, him, Paulie Zach and Jimmy Brown were partners of the club on 17th Avenue and 80th Street. Yeah, you got a good memory. He was Paulie had very funny guy, but when he was serious, watch out. He had that look.
Michael, who was your first phone call to when you found out John Sr. and Sammy were arrested? Can you discuss what was said?
I made no phone calls. Zero. I went out in the street that night. See, let me explain this further. When they got arrested, I was in the Meadowlands waiting for them. We were going to see Frank Sinatra's birthday celebration. John and I gotten tickets from Sinatra's. And John was going out there. Jackie Knows, Jackie Giordano, Joe Watts, me, Junior, Bobby Borriello, and some other guys. But I was in the Meadowlands waiting for him when he got arrested. So there's no phone calls to be made.
Did Carlo and Big Paul know that Piney was a heroin dealer? If so, why was he allowed to deal drugs?
Double standards, hypocrisy, double standards. That's what this disgusting part of that life was. They weren't just heroin dealers. They were major heroin dealers. All of them. So was Carl. His brother, Paulo. All of them. Hypocrisy.
Jimmy says you used to drive them to Western Beef every morning. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I put the kids to work. I used to have a fruit store up on 127th Street and 2nd Avenue. I was partners with Pete Castellana and Frank DeCicco's nephew, mid 80s. They would come up there too. And then after I closed that store, it was very poor. It wasn't just a food store; it was a massive store. Building had fruit, vegetables. You had groceries, meat, fish. It was like a whole block long. We had. And after that closed down, Pete wanted me to stay on. He made me a supervisor. And I took the kids, Jimmy and the rest of those kids, to work with me.
Michael, if you were on the street at the time, what steps would you take to prove or disprove that Joe Watts was cooperating?
Well, so far we haven't made the case whether he was or not. When I get definitive in my answer, then I'll answer that question.
Guys, we just did a whole analysis theory on this on our last Patreon show. So if you're not on Patreon, join, because we did a very, an hour and 20-minute discussion on this last week.
Pretty good. It was a good show.
Yeah.
Let me just explain something, brother. If you can't prove somebody's a cooperator in the street, I know there's a lot of, I'm going to talk for me. If you're not 100% taking somebody's life, you need to kick the can down the road till you are 100% or debunk it. You can't label somebody a rat, which is really despicable on multiple fronts. Because what if the guy's not? And you take his life, and then he has a reputation, his family, and all his friends. He's branded a rat, and maybe he was never. So before you go down that road, I know that it's been done where people thought somebody may be, as we know, out of Gravano's mouth. His closest friends, they're drug addicts, so he said they may rat. Look what happens. Those guys never would have ratted. That's my opinion. But his opinion was secrets to be held, and it was more than they may rat to me. That's a whole other subject for another day. But when you want to kill somebody in that life, they either ratted or they're robbing you. Those are the two easiest ways to get somebody clipped. So look what happened with the Big Gus Galfani, right? He had the crystal ball. He had inside information on arrests, people going to get arrested, indicted, people cooperating. He was pretty good at what he did, bringing that information in. He made one mistake. He said Frankie DeCicco was a rat, his information. No, what wound up happening to Big Gus? They killed him. And he fought his way. He knew he was going to die. He fought. So, was Gus right or was he wrong? I shudder to think that Frank DeCicco was cooperating. But why would he say it? What did
Frank
he just
DeCicco? No.
Listen to me. I'm trying to lay out scenarios.
Yeah.
Did he say it because he didn't get along with Frankie? And being he had that crystal ball and he was so good for so long with his info, he can lie and get the guy clipped. But look how it reverses itself. Very dangerous saying somebody's bad. When you say somebody's bad, you usually have to take their life. They know too much, especially if they're really in the life. Close associate, you go too. No question. But you don't need too much proof. You need rumor at that time.
And that's the thing about Joe Watts, because we have a whole show about this. When you and Junior called him to the meeting on Bath Ave, and he pulls up in the middle of a residential neighborhood with a stretch limousine. Very interesting. But you said there was rumors going around that Joe Watts might be bad. At that time, there was rumors going around.
Yeah.
So do you think
never proven? And that's the whole thing. Here's the guy the guy was a prince. I like Joe Watts. Joe Watts pushed me to get straightened out too, for going way back with Paul. Joe Watts, I never had to check any, and I seen Joe Watts out hundreds of times in my time going out in the 70s and the 80s. I never got to check every time he walked in a club or a restaurant. Picked it up. That's one of the classiest guys ever. I plagiarized some of his lines, as you know. I give him credit for them. But the guy was very witty, very personal, and he was a serious guy, very serious. I respected Joe Watts. Now, again, there's always that smell, and as time go on, could it be? But are you going to take the guy's life if we're not knowing for sure? I don't know.
He's also a classy killer. You said that he showed up for a murder with Ferragamo shoes on.
Yeah, black socks, silk shirt. I was walking around. No sweat. The other day, going to have dinner.
Yeah. Don't want to get got to get some blood on my Ferragamos.
He was pissed off the guy didn't show up that he could kill him. He was mad he couldn't kill him that day. And he was
didn't he say, I'm going to shoot some other guy and say that the bullet ricocheted and put them both in the hole or something like that?
Yeah, Danny Annunziata was supposed to bring him in. He is a wise guy with the Jersey family, and he was supposed to bring him in. He came back without him, and Joe Watts knew he was lying. Danny didn't want to kill him in his house or kill him at all. Danny knew the guy pretty good, and Joe Watts says, "This guy's fucking lying." When next time we get him to bring him in, he says, "I'm gonna tell everybody I hit him when he shot Weiss that the ball one of the bullets ricocheted and hit Danny in the head." Which one to say? Oh. He said, I got to say you got hit with a ricochet. Look at him, start laughing. That's how mad he was.
Why didn't you guys avenge the Gambinos that were killed by Gaspipe?
Yeah, we didn't know that till Gaspipe flipped exactly what was going on. We didn't know. It was all a mystery. Again, that's a real open subject, and it's soft spots for me because there was so much information. Other families may be killing us, killing our guys, and it didn't lead to Gaspipe. To tell you the truth, if according to the tapes from Bobby Manor, it led to Genevieve's family. We didn't know Gaspipe was killing our guys. Gaspipe was killing his own guys. So, again, that came out. All that information about Danny and Jimmy Brown, all of that came out from Gaspipe.
Didn't you? This is after Sammy gets released on the drug charges. When he first got out, and you guys talked a couple times on the phone or a few times, didn't you say one of the things you asked them was, "Hey, well, ask him about this"?
Yeah, that was a real burning question for me going way back, again, into the 90s. I asked Gravano. I said, why didn't you just take care of this? Why didn't you tell us? Why'd you leave us out there? I mean, John had his son out there, not telling him where it was coming from, so we protect ourselves. And he had no answer. Forget the answers he has today. Then he says, oh, we really didn't know. That was his answer to me after he came out 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever. He's been home. His drug case. But he had no answer. I know he's got plenty of stories about it today, but they're all lies because he didn't have an answer. They should have had the answer. They should have figured it out. It was real easy.
Are you surprised there was never a team put together to go after Chin? Especially after they killed DeCicco.
Well, they didn't know, RJ. That's what I'm saying.
Well, Michael, but and maybe on Monday morning quarterbacking, but it doesn't seem like it's that hard to figure out. Even Sammy said the information that we know we had at the time, if we're assuming Sammy to be true, and what he says in his books, he had contacts and three out of the other four families. That Gaspipe knew that they were going to kill Paul, and the people, they went to certain people, and the only family that they didn't go to was Chin, because Paul and Chin were in bed together, and they had big money schemes and stuff like that. I think the easiest thing to not even an overly bright person would say, Sammy got a good relationship with Gas. Sammy went to Gas, talked with them. We talked to the Colombos. We talked to the Bananos. The only people that wasn't involved in this at all was the West Side. They just killed our underboss, our most powerful guy, our long-time guy. This is Chin.
I get it, but that's what Sammy says. Isn't there two stories that Frankie went and talk to Gas, and then he says he talked to Gas about this? There's conflicting stories that come out of his mouth. Now, the most compelling thing for me that puts it in that lap, no matter who's doing the killing, like I said, Chin had Gas doing that family doing all the killing, right? He was sitting back. The Bobby Manor tapes is clear cut. It's clear cut. The transcript somewhere, maybe we could post it on them talking at that restaurant where they got arrested about killing Jeannie and John. Not only John. That should have done it. That should have been send the teams out. That should have done it. Right then and there, they know. And why it didn't happen is a mystery.
But do you believe that maybe we can use our own mind to subtract embellishment? But does it sound reasonable to believe that some kind of information or discussions would have happened with some captains or people in the other families, or they just we're killing Paul and we don't give a fuck what no one has to say?
I like the hell out of it. The latter. We don't care. I don't think. Look, it's supposed to be a secret, right? You're going out polling other families. You might as well just go to commission, ask for permission. We did this already. We did a whole show on this. Let people go watch it. But no, you're going to go out polling other families. We're going to do an unsanctioned hit or commission boss. What do you think, fellas? Shh, don't tell nobody. Pinky swear? No. I don't believe it. All that stuff that comes out of Shalai Lot's mouth.
But that was in the book too. They did pinky swear.
They did. That's it.
No, he talks about the pinky.
No, I'm not.
Let's see here. Did John make a mistake assigning 2 crews to hit Fred, or do you think someone else?
Well, none of us did it. It wanted to be New Jersey guys doing it, Omar. The Jersey guys, when Joe Watts went and complained to John about Danny Nunziata, who was with them at the time, and Johnny D'Amato was handling the Jersey guys at that time directly with John. Their surveillance pitches around just before the murder of Weiss, with John taking a walk with Johnny D'Amato. That's how they tried to murder him with him. It was through those videos also. John told him, and Johnny D'Amato was embarrassed for his guy. And he says, we'll do it. And that's what happened. They took it. So we had nothing to do with it.
What guy did you hate dealing with and why?
There's a few guys that are just liars. You know, you can't stand dealing with a liar. TG was a bad liar. Johnny Gamarano and Alfred, bad liar. There was a lot of bad liars. There's at times there's no reason to lie. It's over money. You gotta lie to save somebody's life. Don't lie over money.
It almost reminds me of when you were talking about the Chris Paciello sit down, and all these big, powerful guys are in the room, and they're lying through their teeth. Everybody's just lying, and everybody knows they're lying, but no one can say, hey, you're lying.
Yeah, well, let me just set up the plays at the table. There was Porky, who was John Zinocchio. He was instead for TG. He didn't show up at the meeting. So he sends Porky, which Alley Boy Presco was there. He wasn't happy. Wild Bill was there, Johnny Rizzo, and myself. We had a meeting in a restaurant over Chris Paciello. And everybody's going back, giving their opinion who Chris is with. So after a while, Ali and I are looking at each other and says, can we go on the side? Went on the side. I said, you know, Bill's lying. He says, yeah, and Johnny Rizzo's lying. And I don't like that guy. He stutters too much. Like Porky. So we just called 2 guys, Bill and Johnny Rizzo, liars. And that's how I says, hey, now we fix this. Let's let the kid decide. And Alley Boy says, it's unprecedented. You want to make him decide? Yeah, well, I know what he's going to choose. He's going to choose those guys. He was friendly with all the guys he had around him, Bill. So, but right there, we 2 guys, I had decision-making capacity for our family, and Alley Boy was acting boss. So we were able on the side, and later on, come to terms and not lie to each other. He knew I wasn't going to lie to him for a guy that was lying for us. And he wasn't going to lie for a guy he knew was lying with him to lie to us. That's how you build relationships on that level. That's how, you know, you're going to be in that life. You're going to have a credibility issue, credibility issue later on in life. If you're a liar in administration, not going to be good. You got to be able to know that guy you sit at your level, at that top tier level, knows you're telling the truth.
Was it Greg De Palma you called a liar?
Yeah, I call him a liar. I got admonished for it. Yeah, I apologize.
Did Junior know but in the moment, but did Junior, who he ripped you for calling De Palma a liar, but did Junior know in the moment, hey, this guy, I know he's lying, but Michael, you can't tell him he's lying?
I don't think so. I think he really believed him. He liked the kid. This is my kumbada. We loved each other. But he liked the kid a lot. He took him away from his father. And Louis Bras, he straightened him out and put him in his crew, which is another mistake. You took the guy away from his father, even though they're both wise guys at the time, but you took him out of that crew. That's how much John liked him. But still, that's why the message I got, you're right about everything, then you're right about everyone when he got pinched in the squash case. Too late.
Did you second guess John when you started seeing guys like DB and Louis getting killed, knowing that John had to give the okay? Or did you know it was Sammy selling a story about them from the beginning? That's a good question.
Yeah, no, it's a very good. No, I wasn't in no position to start second guessing. I could have my opinion. The Louis DeBono I know was all Sammy. I didn't have to know one fact. When Louis DeBono died, that was Sammy. I knew he got revenge. So Sammy's going to get you sooner or later. The DB stuff, I really didn't know the background stuff on why he got killed at that time when he was killed. But matter of fact, it was a surprise to me. It was early on he got killed, DB. Guy didn't bother nobody. He was bringing the money. I was surprised.
Can you do an entire episode on Anthony Spero? I feel like there is not much info out on him prior to the 90s. How did he move up and gain so much power? Was Benanti under one of the three capos?
Joe Benanti. I know Joe Benanti pretty good. He wasn't a nice guy. He was an incorrigible guy. He helped ruin all those kids, Jimmy and the rest of them. Tremendously bad advice and leadership with those kids.
Michael, why do you say? I know there were people who didn't really like it, but maybe you can give some more context. Like when you said, like there should be a statue of Spero. What makes you say that?
Well, Spero comes from the roots of that neighborhood. That's where he's from. And Spero was a typical neighborhood guy. He was not pretentious at all. The guy used to wear a T-shirt and sneakers and sit on Bath Avenue, fly pigeons. He was a gangster. But he didn't, when you put a suit and tie on, it was like putting on a caveman. Matter of fact, that was his nickname for me. I had a nickname for him. He was caveman growing up. And, the good he did, he loved kids. He had two daughters, but on Bath Avenue, there was a million little boys at the time, including kids like Jimmy and Joey Calco and Fabrizio and everybody else there, besides other kids like myself, Joey DeColve, Barry, and all the other kids that stood on the corner where Spero had his club. And he was good to all of us. He really was. And the people in the neighborhood who couldn't pay their rent, they couldn't pay their electric, went to Spero, helped them out with bills. All the kids, you go to Nick's candy store, a lot of kids couldn't eat, they would have food in there. Come in the club. You go in the club, the kids 7, 8 years old, where's my son? Sleeping on the couch in the back. They're playing cards, shooting crap. There was his playhouse. He was a really great guy for the neighborhood. He was not a money hungry guy. He wasn't a money grabber. He wasn't vicious. He didn't look to set a reputation as being a violent guy. He moved up because of the guy he was, like I just said. All the good things about him. Gave you a fair decision. My brother, before Anthony got straightened out, that swing out. My brothers used to bring scores to him. My brothers were burglars. And he was a fence. It made him and his brother Sal, they were fences. They bought a lot of stuff, a lot of jewelry and stuff, stamps, coins, jewelry. So he was an icon of that neighborhood.
This is not the real Teddy Atlas, of course. This is just someone's name. But someone's using that name. Why are you so obsessed with Sammy? Who's that behind that? Who's typing that?
No, that's a fair question. It's a fair question. Let's say it's Joe Q, citizen, right? Well, a couple of things. One is, why is Sammy so obsessed with John Gotti? Sammy, till today, talks about everybody talking about him for hits and views, which we don't care about hits and views. We love to have people there, but we're not here to generate that and to be fraudulent upon everybody. It's just to have hits and views and tell fairy tales. Sammy has not kept John's name out of his mouth until recently, until the last show. He's still after John. He's still playing the victim. So those are the questions. If you're going to ask me that, it's a fair question. Go ask him why he talks about John all the time. Sammy Gravano would be zero without John Gotti. Has a reputation and everything else. He'd still be a soldier. Don't kill Paul. Toto dies. Yeah, he probably is the captain later on, whenever Toto would have died. Without killing Paul, he would be, you really wouldn't know him until he got pinched with murders. But he wouldn't be of the level that you think he is without John Gotti. And he knows it. That's why he talks about John. So just for fairness and balance, I think if Sammy talks about John, I could talk about Sammy. Now, getting back to my obsession. Obsession is a pretty strong word. It may sound obsessive in your eyes and some others, but Sammy was an integral part of my life growing up. I came up in the streets looking up to the guy. He pushed for me to get straight on, another guy. We were on murders together. He got me a job in the Teamsters Union. I helped run the Teamsters Union for him whenever he wanted me to bring messages and do things for him in the Teamsters. We were intertwined with so many things. And he knew where I was going, and he knew how much John liked me. We're so intertwined, it's almost impossible when I tell certain stories not to introduce his name. Now, am I going to introduce his name in a flattering way? You got to be crazy. Not you. I'm just saying, just throwing that out there. It's crazy to think I could talk to him like flattering to him. The guy's nothing but a liar. And this is what infuriates me. That's why I'm here today. I said several of the reasons why I finally gave up several. I got a couple of more that I'll release maybe soon. But the guy lies about George Faraci's here. The guy lies about killing her brother. Lies about his brother-in-law. Lies about other people. Abuses their families. He said multiple times, and Joy's here right now, if she wants to step up and type something in, we'd appreciate it. Says she apologized to her and Sammy apologized to her and her family about the brother. It's not true. Joy has said it's not true. He'll just lie and abuse people. That's still abuse. Now, do I go after him hard? Yeah. Go after him hard. And whenever he steps out and lies, whenever he steps out and abuses a family of somebody who took their lives, again, I went on this rant at least a half a dozen times already. But it's a fair question if you don't know. If you really want to know if this is not a set-up person by Sammy Gravano, Scammy Gravano, because that's what he does. He's scamming all he is. Don't you just get it? With God and everything else, he's scamming you. Open your minds up. You open up your pockets to this guy, send him all kinds of money. He's laughing at you. We don't want no money. We don't ask for money on here. He's scamming you. I'm here to take him down on his lies and what he's done to families over the years. Thank you, Joy. Thank you for certifying that. Appreciate it. And she still feels the pain. Ask her about her. Hey, whoever asked that question, ask Joy Faraci if I should leave him alone with the lies he perpetrates on everybody. Ask her. She lost her brother to him. When you give her a good enough answer, I should leave Sammy alone, and she tells Michael, leave Sammy alone, I'll leave him alone. How's that?
Okay. I didn't expect you got a little passionate there. I was waiting for you didn't do it though.
I go like this. I scratch. Thank you, Joy.
All right, let's see here. I'm actually glad you said that because I don't know that I think we did on Patreon, but I don't know how much on YouTube that you have talked about. What was your motive to come on YouTube and to talk and to, talk about all these stories and things like that? I knew because you told me when we first started the show, before we even made one show, about a lot of people who died. I know specifically the one thing that's stuck with you hard was the casket story.
Yeah, Mike Debatt. He did a video before I even knew RJ. Before I knew about, and I've been thinking about YouTube. I seen a video a lot of videos he was doing. I watched them. I was very curious on how he's going to behave and talk about people. And he's at the casket or the cemetery, and he's thinking out loud on the show what he was going through his mind. And he says, "Look what you made me do to you, you motherfucker. You killed him. The guy had a little girl, a little baby. He's a motherfucker because he snorted coke. Maybe with you too? No, not maybe with you too. He's a motherfucker. You killed him. He's a motherfucker." And that's what your thought is. Instead of your heart breaking for the guy at that point, say, maybe I made a mistake killing the guy who loved me. According to his words, the guy loved him. And Mike Debatt was willing to die for him. And every guy that you killed and you did a show on was a motherfucker. And you had the gall to say you said it at the cemetery or in the funeral parlor. I don't remember exactly where it was. He's a motherfucker. How's that correct? How's that to put the earth on the axis the other way a little bit? You got to be kidding me. His family's been watching. Maybe the guy's daughter's watching your shows. Hearing you talk about her father. It's nice. Don't talk about them all or say something nice. Or tell the truth like I've told you. Tell the truth. He can't tell the truth. He won't. I got this one over here. Look. Casey Robinson, the Shaky. You ever see it? The 659.
Okay. Michael, I loved when you said I spent my money on gambling, booze, women, and blew the rest of it.
All right. I plagiarized that from W.C. Fields. Anybody don't know, he was an old-time comedian. And the other saying, I spent half my money on women, gambling, and booze. The other half I just wasted. I thought that was so much of my early life. I sort of latched onto that at that time.
If Gaspipe gave the approval for Paul, why did John give Angelo permission to kill Gaspipe? It seems they did know. It seems that they did know Gaspipe was behind it.
Yeah, well, another open-ended question, and not from you, just the way things exist. There's things about saying that Gaspipe called Angelo Ruggiero a rat. That's out there. That Gaspipe beat Sammy, Mickey Boy, and Angelo in the drug business. There's all kinds of rumors out there that he was part of DeCicco. We don't know the answer for that, the real answer. But I feel John gave Angelo permission to go clip him.
Yeah.
For whatever the reason was. Could have been all of them. Could have been all of the above.
Yeah, there's no way he's going out on a hit without approval from John. Any Mickey Generosa's stories?
I have a few, yeah, yes. A really good guy goes way back. Him and his family go way back. Powerhouse forever in that family, the West Side. Classy guy, know the life inside and out. Another guy, boss, could have been the boss. If she wasn't a boss, he's one of the guys in that family, could have been. There were several at that time that could have been the boss there. Mickey was one of them. Yeah, Yankees win. Hey, come. I won it today. Magic number is 1. Win one game, or Baltimore loses one game. It's over. We win first place.
If Paul was as weak as everyone said he was, why kill him?
Well, that was another thing on Patreon we have. It's pretty long-winded. Short answer: he didn't have to die. That's my answer. But there is a whole thesis, I guess, on why and why not on Patreon, if you so choose to jump in on there.
Yeah, we got a lot of the stuff. It's like I'm trying to filter through certain questions because we got so many shows on Patreon about so many of these questions that like full length shows on this stuff. So, how treacherous was Vic Amusa?
No, there's a good one. Okay, what you saying? Sorry about that.
Hold on, what was so funny? Keep us.
So Sicilian Syndicate 703.
Let me see. You gotta. We all have to.
Was Vic Amuso? You know, I think he would have been a lot better without Sammy in the way. Sammy and Gaspipe, same person. Without that Gaspipe in his ear, like Sammy was in John's ear, I think Vic would have been a better boss.
Yeah. Yeah, Tony Ducks gets you know, he gets
an F. He gets an F for picking them guys.
History has forgotten about him, but let's not forget who put those guys there that destroyed that whole family, killed that whole family. Tony Ducks comes out of the Tommy Lucchese, Tom Gagliano, probably as far back as the Reina faction, Pinzola. These guys were original Cosa Nostra guys. Why he picked that lunatic to run the family, I'll never understand where that decision came from. I had the same gripe with Carlo. I know you about the lineage and stuff like that, but you should have picked Neil. You shouldn't have had Paul there. If you would have picked Neil, none of that stuff happens. The whole history is different. Neil should have put Paul at consigliere and you put Neil as boss. No question about it. Tell me I'm wrong. I dare you. I dare you to tell me I'm wrong.
It'll be too long-winded. I can't. So I'll kick the can down the road. Save that question. Go
on. What if the CI that the FBI had was just an illegal wiretap they couldn't use? A lot of those illegal wiretaps are just named informants in the files and can't be used as evidence. I never even thought about something like that.
Well, let's say there is such thing as an illegal wiretap. You know, to use it for investigative, like a source, like a CI. Years ago, let me see if I could put this in context. Years ago, they would put people in the grand jury and give this information to a very slanted one-part prosecutor in there with up to 24 citizens, and they tell one side of the story. You can indict anybody. Now, there became a problem where a lot of witnesses were going to grand juries and they were finding out who those witnesses were. Or with the witnesses that went into the grand jury, their stories didn't match. And sometimes they were having problems with grand juries. So what the government did, because grand juries should be illegal, they should be wiped out. There should be no such thing as a grand jury anymore, my opinion. What they do, they'll take an agent and he'll go in there with source information. That's all they have to do is say source. They ain't got to give the guy's name. They'll go in that information, present the case to the grand jury. You're getting indicted. So grand jury should be illegal. There's no representation on the target because usually they'll call people in around the target to give up information. You could take the fifth, or if they really want to press you, they could give you immunity. And when they give you immunity in the grand jury, it means you have to talk. If you don't, you get jail time for the life of the grand jury. 6 months, a year, 18 months, whatever that grand jury is impaneled for. So yes, those wiretaps, CIs out there, and bringing that evidence to the grand jury really could jam people up for a while. Yes.
How about RICO?
Gotta go. It's illegal. 2 or more is a racketeering enterprise. I don't know.
Without RICO, you could have never taken down the mob. They had to do an illegal. They had to create a law that's probably Do you know if it was ever challenged constitutionally? Do you know?
I'm sure it was. I can't cite case law or case right now precedent, but I'm sure it wasn't early on. But I think it's bulletproof.
Because to me, it doesn't seem constitutional. If you just think about
Lot of hearsay.
charging somebody with a crime that they never, that all you have to prove is that there's this whole operation thing going on. They were never involved in any of the operations, but if you can just find some evidence that they are above it, they never fired a gun. You can charge that one guy with everything that happened down here, but he never did any of it. Seems a little bit sticky. But I'm not saying I'm against it, but because I would say, how would you have taken down the mob without RICO? From an outsider perspective, now I'm not a pro mafia guy. I'm not cheering for the mob. I'm for society. So how, for the benefit of society, how do you take down a criminal enterprise without RICO?
Well, the whole thing was to take it from the top down, not from individual to individual crime. The whole thing was to make that. And again, you get caught up, and I'll give you an example. The stripper in my Gold Club case, right? Jackie Bush. She was being charged with things that went back to, like, let's say 1986. And I had a lawyer tell the jury when we went on trial, she joined this conspiracy in 86. She didn't get her period yet. You think that's fair? They chuckled. I chuckled except for the prosecutor. He was mad. Well, that's why I told, just to put it in concept to the jury, these laymen that don't understand that here's a girl. She lived in Wisconsin at the time. She was a little girl. And they're charging with Stevie and I's conspiracy, racketeering conspiracy that goes all the way back. It didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So you can get into that whirlpool, and once you get in there, you got a headache.
Yeah. Sophistication creates a more sophisticated person, like steel sharpens steel. The mob had such a beautiful formula that was, you couldn't penetrate. You could never get to the boss. That's why bosses had long runs at a time before. Once RICO came around, boss didn't stick around very long anymore. So their sophisticated model created a government to think about something even more sophisticated to attack it. So
you know what's really bizarre? Being a member of organized crime, the mafia, Cosa Nostra, whatever you want to attach to it, is not a crime. It's not a crime. So you have this super law for people in this designated group as a criminal organization that's not deemed a crime, being in it.
Yeah, that's one of the things that Joe Valachi testified to. He said that the U.S. should do what they do in Italy and make it illegal to even be a member. Should be a charge.
That was very nice of Joe Bonanno. I'm glad he was a boss.
Not Bonanno. Joe Valachi.
Oh, Valachi. Sorry, I thought you said Bonanno.
Don't bad talk Valachi. I love Joe Valachi. He was a champion of the small guy for the soldier. He was for the soldier. He wanted to break the bosses. I'm always for I'm a guy that's pro-associate, pro-soldier. I'm anti everything above that. That's my life philosophy, that the people up top are making things hard for the people at the bottom. That's my general perspective on life.
Sounds like politics.
It does. That's why I'm always for the small guy. Always. I always champion the small people.
Somebody asked if I was in the Gemini Lounge. Never.
Someone asked if you missed the Ravenite.
No. I didn't like going there. I thought it was a huge mistake going to the Ravenite.
Someone asked me yesterday to if you walked into like the Ravenite. I used you as an example because we talked about this once before. But John's in the Ravenite, 20, 30 guys are in the Ravenite. If you walked into the Ravenite and and you went up to somebody else and you were talking to them or saying hello to somebody else first, how does it work walking into the Ravenite and the boss is there?
Oh, that's easy. You walk right past everybody and you go right to the boss.
Even if it's a line of people waiting to say hi to the boss, does the boss get greeted first?
Well, yeah. Well, if there's a line of people waiting, you would get on that friggin' line. But no, but if John was in the back or Paul, every boss that I ever heard of, you go say hello to him first. And everybody else should understand and will understand that you don't get in the way of that. If they're in the line of sight, you definitely don't get in the way and hold up. You go see John first. He deserves the boss. That's protocol. That's respect. That's it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, go to Cub Scouts.
Yeah, I remember I read Valachi's whole testimony 10 times, so I always talk about him. But he talked about how he has so much respect for Don Vito Genovese. He said, like, being in his sight I used to get nervous, and he said he would stutter when he would talk to him because that's how much respect he had for him, that he would get so unnerved talking to the boss. It's crazy, right?
Well, I can see that being pretty common, especially if you don't interact that much with the boss. Here's a guy who has, has got life and death, control your future, whether you earn a living, not earn a living. It's your father in that life. That's your father, and he has control over everything you do in your life. If he has to do something, he's going to give you a yay or nay on it. So, you're nervous around the boss, like anything else.
Tell me if you think this sounds believable, but he also talked about it's very rare, at least back then, he said, to be even around. He said there was guys who were in the mob for 10 years who never even met the boss. Never.
I don't know about that. Guys got straightened out. The boss was there.
This is what he says, so you can correct it. But he talked about a time he was in the room for the first time with Lucky. And he said that, this is my chance to, I want to, say something to him. And he was doing real bad at the time. And Lucky, it's him, Lucky, and another guy in the room. Lucky says to the other guy, "What's he want?" Points over at Valachi, but doesn't talk to him directly. He went to him. And then this guy says, "What do you want?" Valachi speaks back to him and says, "I'm not doing that good," or something to that. And then he speaks back to Lucky, and then Lucky, but they were talking in a circle, but they're all in the same room.
And I'll give you another example. My father used to drive my grandfather and other people down to Elizabeth Street. There was a boss there called Dumbfella. And it was a big hangout. Elizabeth Street was Sicilians. All the Sicilians I got there. And he was a major anchor, just like I talked about the Roberts crew with the Sicilian crew early on. And my father met Lucky just about every time he went to the club down there. Took my grandfather or somebody else. And my father was very lucky. His father was D'Aguila. His godfather was D'Aguila. So he got to meet all these high-profile guys as a kid. So my father was not in that unfamiliar, nervous spot where, like you say, a wise guy was. He was okay with it. Lucky asked my grandfather, just like Carl asked my grandfather for my father. And my father said, he told Lucky, when he asked for him, to get him straightened out. They straighten you out when you're real young then, 17, 18 years old, easily. You were a man already at those days. You got straightened out. And he says, his godfather's dead. Nobody gets my son. He was still unhappy with D'Aguila getting killed. So, and he wanted my father to very bad temper. He was a young kid. So he didn't let him in. But the proximity to the people, if you see them over and over, you're more comfortable. If it's far and few between, like with Valachi, you could see being very nervous around them.
All right. Let's take one more and then we'll close it out. Michael, are you surprised all these people popped into the show?
Oh, I love it. Very good.
Yeah.
All good people. I haven't seen one person that came in just to cause a little havoc. All good questions. Too bad I can't answer them. I would love to.
I didn't block anybody.
Hundreds in there.
Joe Messino was the first mafia boss to cooperate with the government. In the 5 families, yes. I think there was one in, what's his name again? But
Bernardo was an underboss. Angelo Leonardo. Here's a go. L'chaim Putz. L'chaim Putz. Nap Commission, grand jury, 40 corrupt cops took the stand and all covered for each other despite evidence presented. Yeah, that's a historic case. Absolutely. Tracy Gramwell. Hi, Mikey. Your message will be later. I know the picture, you didn't get it. Tell me you didn't get it. You didn't get the second one now. You send me your address again. I'll send you the picture again.
I've been considering buying Valachi's book. Is it a good read, worth my money to purchase? Yes, but you can also buy the testimony. The testimony is very good. A lot of information.
I read none of them, so you got to defer. I defer to RJ.
Is out, but you have it because I bought it for you to read, but you won't read it. Is Al DiArco a liar?
I didn't read his book. I really can't say. I knew Al. I didn't know him well. I had a couple of meets with him. I don't know. I didn't read his book.
I love acknowledgement because you don't get to make a mistake on this thing without you're ripped for life as not knowing shit. RJ, you are correct. And the book, Valachi said Luciano wouldn't even acknowledge Valachi's presence and spoke to him through a subordinate the whole time. Thank you, Raven Knight. This Raven Knight production, we got to find out who this guy is because this guy, he's pretty good, Michael.
He has his own show. So anybody's interested, jump over to him. Very respectful guy, very informative. We suggest it. Jeff Lee, what's this?
But
yeah, Jeff Lee says he was talking about Vietnam vets, mob guys as Vietnam veterans, and he says don't include Scammy because he was never in Vietnam. The guy's right. You go to Vietnam, you're a Vietnam vet. If you don't go to Vietnam, you're a Vietnam era veteran, not in Vietnam. Very good.
Final question. Michael, do you think you ever had a choice? If you cooperate, you will destroy lives. If you stay in the streets, you will still destroy lives. Perspective.
Well, you always have a choice. If you say you don't have a choice, you're making an excuse. The name of our channel is No Excuses. So when you make that choice, you're going to have to stick with it and live with it. Now, could you say you made a wrong choice? Yeah, but you can't cop out on that wrong excuse to say you're right today. If you made a bad mistake, you have to live with that bad mistake in your choice. We all have choices.
Sometimes you have two bad choices. I agree. But I would say too often times the answer is easily judged as an excuse. Sometimes it's just the answer. It's not an excuse all the time. It's just the answer to the question. Yeah. And what people are saying when they fight people on giving an answer is, I'm not willing to, don't say nothing. But sometimes the answer, sometimes it's just the answer. So, yeah, life's a complex thing.
Danny F. Sally Spero was not made. No, that's he's brother. Nice guy. Big fence also. Big pigeon guy. Nice.
Did you know Lefty Two Guns?
No.
Another interesting guy I like reading about. All right, guys. That was fun. That wasn't even planned. So I think that went pretty good. What's up, Michael? What do you want to say?
Yeah, I was reading Frank Nigro. He threw a couple of names up from the past. Gaetano Russo and it's Joe Russo also. Joe Cusimano and Joe Russo. They had the funeral home, Cusimano and Russo. Yeah, I knew Joe Cusimano very well. I was in our crew, the old timer. Gaetano, no, I didn't meet him. I believe I met him. So, well, this was fun. And I appreciate it. I'm going to speak for all of us, Mikey and RJ. We appreciate everybody coming out there. It's robust, a lot of questions. There's hundreds of questions there. I would really like to answer all of them, but we'll be here a long time. RJ's under the weather, legitimately under the weather. He's not feeling well. And he's got a little vertigo going on. And anybody want to volunteer to be his driver for the next week or so?
I'll be okay.
My money's on you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you guys as always. I'm really proud to say we've always held on to our support for our channel. So I do appreciate it. It's always a good feeling to see everybody still sticking around. I always think they're going to get tired of looking at my bald head, but they're still here.
Come on a wig.
Maybe I'll try that next time.
The number on my back, I seen about 3. I think it's at least 3 that says, "What's the number you're wearing?" That's Paul O'Neill, number 21. Played hard. I like anybody who played that game or any game real hard with heart.
So,
again, God bless. Thank you for being here. Keep smiling, everybody.
Join us on Patreon. Don't let your being short $10 stop you from joining. All you gotta do is email the show. We get hundreds and hundreds of emails. So if you don't get a response, just send us another email. You're not going to offend us, but emails do get lost and stuff like that. So yeah. So join us on Patreon. We do a lot of really fun, interesting stuff. So Michael just had another meetup last week. So with some guys.
Really? 2 meetups.
2. So we meet people. We do a lot of things. It's really great. So join us on Patreon. Peace and love. Michael, close it out.
God bless. Be well. Keep smiling.